if I had only 10 or 15 minutes with you, it would be these next 10 or 15 minutes, even more than the breakthrough. Because I'm going to make you two promises about this last vision key. And remember, all I'm asking you to do is say, well, where have I been? About here. What would I look like to move here? And this last vision key, I'm going to make you two promises. Promise number one, if you will commit from the moment we really understand this one to doing everything in your heart and spirit to master it, nothing you will ever do will have a more profoundly positive impact on your Alouette business than this vision key. But I'll make you a bigger promise, and that's a big one. Bless you. And the bigger promise is this. If you will bring this one home, starting today, to the people you love the most, nothing you will ever do will have a more profoundly positive impact on those relationships that will define the quality of your life than this simple vision key. It's so important, I call it the gift. And it says very simply this, look at all the stuff you're not getting today. It says, I am fully present. I am fully present. Now what does that mean? When you're fully present, 100% of your mind, body, and spirit is with the person you're with, where they are now. I'll say that again. When you're fully present, 100% of your mind, body, and spirit is with the person you're with, where they are now. Now, how many people in this room have ever been with somebody where you know their body's here, but the rest of them is definitely in another county? How many ever had that happen before? So, how does it make you feel when someone you really wish to be present with you is not fully present with you? How does it make you feel? For some people, it makes them angry. It makes them want to grab that person's head and say, I really don't know where you are now, but I need you here. But for every person I've ever met, even the most confident, self-actualized, highest self-esteem individuals, when somebody we deeply wish to be fully present with us is not fully present with us, it makes us feel worth less. It makes us feel unimportant. And you know what your job is as a breakthrough leader is? It comes down to one little simple thing. Our job and our joy is to help everyone we care about, every beauty consultant, every breakaway possibility, our children, ourselves. Our job as a breakthrough leader is to break through enough fear that that person knows they're important. Because when people know they're important, they find the keys to those cars. When people know they're important, they stand up and break through those obstacles. But how do you do that? How do you help people know they're important in the first 10 seconds when you meet them out there and you really want to get them excited about your opportunity with Alouette? How do you help people know they're important when you don't even get to see them, you're just talking to them over the phone? And how do you help people know they're important? This is the tough one. How do you help those people know they're important who are the people who already know all your tricks? You can't fake them out. They know you too well. Well, the secret comes down to being fully present. Now, some people in this room are going, Brian, very nice point. I appreciate it very much, but you're a bit dramatic, aren't you? Well, can't you see the power in something if you look honestly at its opposite? And I'm not proud of this. You're looking at the opposite. 15 years ago, I was vice president general manager of one of the larger training companies in America. And I was focused on me. Every day I left my house at 4:40 a.m. Had to be the first guy there. I got there by 5 o'clock in the morning. No one showed up till 7:30. I'm there at 5 every day. Never did I get home before 6:30, 6:45 at night. At least 2 nights a week on average, I'd work till 11 or 12. And 40 of 52 weekends in that one calendar year, I was on the road. I was either teaching seminars or out visiting our locations where we had others who were teaching seminars. Now, that also happened to be a gigantic, enormous year in my family's life. First of all, that was the year that my wife, Carol, was pregnant with the little girl who started the inspiration today called Jenna. And my wife needed me more than I will ever begin to tell you. But I was never there. But it was an enormous, incredible year in my older daughter's life. And that's the one who's in college now. Her name is Kelsey. Because that was the year that Kelsey turned 5 years old. Now tell me, what happens in a child's life at 5 years old? Kindergarten. You know, I asked that to a group of accountants once. They said, you lose a tooth? No, kindergarten. In kindergarten. Remember, PR stands for personal what? Kindergarten is one of the powerful threshold events in a young child's life because in one magical moment, that little 5-year-old child breaks through that little invisible barrier, steps forward and goes, I don't go to preschool anymore. I go to real school. And I remember the second day of Kelsey's life. She was born in Kirkland, Washington. We lived in Bellevue, the town next door to Kirkland, all right? Right near Seattle. On the second day of our first child's life, get out of town. There is nothing better. This miracle before our eyes. Your heart grows 6 sizes. On the second day of her life, we were bringing her home for the first time. A moment you can't forget. And as we drove her home that morning, we drove by the school that she would go to if we stayed in that neighborhood, in that home when she was 5 years old. And as we drove by that school that morning, I got a vision of my 2-day-old little girl as a 5-year-old girl on her very first day of school. And it was the most vivid vision I have ever had in my life. I pictured a little girl climbing out of a van with a backpack 6 sizes too big. Brown ponytail hanging down, taking one step out of that van, looking back at Carol and I, scared to death. Looking forward at that school, kind of excited, scared, excited, scared, excited, scared. And in that vision, Carol and I were in perfect synergy because both of us were doing the same thing. We were breathing faith into our child. We were looking at her with total love and saying, honey, you're going to love school. School is going to love you. You're going to love to learn. You're going to make friends. It's going to start so many wonderful things in your life. We're just breathing this into her in this vision. And in this vision, she finally got enough of our faith and our love that she stood up a little taller. She looked at us and smiled just a little bit. And she turned and she walked through that gate. That was the most vivid vision I've ever had in my life. But guess what? That day came. And I wasn't there. I will never get that one back. I could have been there. I'd already been at work for 2.5 hours. I thought a phone call would suffice. Not once was I there to wake up my little girl and get her ready for school. Not once was I there to help her with that backpack and watch her walk through that gate. And you know, not once did it even occur to my thick skull to show up at 3 o'clock when school was over for a little surprise, a little dad and me. Even if it was no more than for 15 minutes to pick her up, give her a hug and a kiss, tell her how much I love her, drop her at home, go back to work. Not once. But you know what? It didn't seem like it made a big difference for a while. Because every night when I came home, if I came home and she was still awake, the second I turned the doorknob on that front door and my foot came across that threshold, guess what met me? I know you know. Whatever my 5-year-old beauty was doing, she would drop it. And she would literally run to me. She'd run faster and faster and faster. She had the launch pad picked out. She'd launch herself out. I'd catch her. She'd throw her arms around me. She'd look up at me with these dazzling brown eyes. You got to see her later. She's incredible. She'd look up at me with these dazzling brown eyes, and she'd say the same thing. She'd say, Daddy, I love you so much. And then she'd say, and Daddy, I missed you so much today. And then my precious little girl would want to tell me all the things that happened all day. And in case any of you have forgotten, when you are 5 years old, really cool stuff happens. But you know what? I missed it. I missed it. I didn't hear a word she said. Because the only part of me that showed up when I came through that door was my body. My mind, my heart, my spirit, my presence. It was back at the office thinking about the meetings I've been leading or worrying about where I was flying to this weekend. I was never present. And this went on for days that rolled into weeks that turned into months. Until one morning, I'm driving to work at 4:40 in the morning, and all I can say today, and I say it with absolute passion, is, thank you, God. But in that moment, I was pretty certain I was having a heart attack. Now, thankfully, I've actually never had a heart attack, but I got enough of a sneak preview for me. I couldn't breathe. I was gasping, trying to get some air. It felt like somebody took my entire insides and scrunched it into the size of my fist. I doubled over, and I couldn't drive anymore. I pulled to the side of the road because I was sobbing so bad that I couldn't see. And I pulled to the side of the road, and though I could not see out, never in my life have I seen more clearly in. And what I saw in that moment of crystal clarity is two things that totally changed my life. Thank goodness.